Frederick Stella was raised in an Italian-American Catholic family in Detroit, Michigan. It was in high school where he was introduced to the Hindu Dharma while taking a course in world religions. This began a spiritual journey that led him to fully embrace the Dharma at the age of 33. Over these many years, Fred has received training in Hindu theology and practices in ashrams and temples in the USA and India. In 2009, Fred was ordained by the West Michigan Hindu Temple as an outreach minister. In this role, Fred is quite active, appearing at schools, colleges, churches, and civic organizations to teach the basics of Hinduism. He also acts as a spiritual counselor and meditation teacher. Since 2015, Fred has served on the National Leadership Council of the Hindu American Foundation, working in advocacy, education, and community relations. Professionally, Fred Stella is a commercial actor. His career has included work in radio, TV, film, stage, and web content. Most of his effort for the past 2 decades has been in the field of narrating and directing audiobooks. He has over 200 to his credit. Please welcome Fred Stella.
Well, thank you, and namaste. It's wonderful to be back here. It has been quite a hiatus between the last appearance here and today. I'm trying to remember, but I think it was before COVID. Could be wrong on that, but it's been a while. I'm actually suffering a little bit of post-traumatic stress, actually right now, and that is because 8 years ago, almost to the day, I was at another Unitarian Universalist church, your friends and colleagues in Muskegon Harbor. I was there. But it was not the Sunday before, but it was the Sunday after the general election. And let me tell you, that was a challenging day. I think my sermon was on like finding joy. And let me tell you something, especially they have one part of their service where people get up and they share whatever joys or challenges they may have experienced in the previous week. And they just went all Old Testament on me. I mean, wailing, rending of garment, wearing of sackcloth and ashes. It was pretty challenging. And I think I changed my message, but at one point I'm thinking I gotta slip out of here. I think they're going to sign a suicide pact, but they didn't, and we're all here, and hopefully we're all joyful. My message today, as you heard, is on meditation. Specifically, Reverend G asked me to focus on mental health, so that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing we should probably do is define meditation for our purposes. Am I doing that? Okay. I'll ignore it. Maybe I'll stand back a little bit. Anyway, so people use the word meditate in many ways. You can say, well, should we go to this meeting on Thursday? Well, let me meditate on that. Or it can be something a little bit more formal of that's it. Let me do this and see if this helps. So for our purposes, meditation will be defined as that practice that can be practiced either solitarily or communally, where one sequesters oneself from the workaday world from the cares and responsibilities and focuses on attempting to have an experience that allows the freedom of thought and a transcendent experience. So let's think about it in that way. We're really trying to move ourselves out of where we are now, where that is to say, where we are in our work, in our family, in our education, wherever it is that we normally spend our workaday lives. We are sequestering ourselves, and we are essentially recharging our batteries so that when we return to that world, we are returning in a better state of mind and body. That's the goal. We don't always make that goal. Believe me, meditation is often about not being able to make the goal that you set for yourself, but you do it anyway. So if we're going to sequester ourselves, if we're going to attempt to have this transcendent experience, why would we want to do that? Well, I speak from about 35 years, a little bit more than 35 years, of daily meditation. And I want to share some of my experiences, both spiritually and also mentally and emotionally. And also not just my experiences, but the experiences of people who have been students of mine and people who have just been on the same path, who have shared with me their experiences. Because here's the thing, meditation can be one of the most important things that you do for your mental health. Let's leave spiritual health aside for just a second, but for your mental health, I don't have to tell you how much has been written in the last 30, 40 years on the studies of what meditation can do for people who are seeking to improve their mental and emotional health. I mentioned in the blurb that was printed on my talk today that therapists have been doing a great deal of work trying to find out how to handle those people in the military suffering from post-traumatic stress. And they have found that, yes, there are many, many opportunities, many paths to healing. Drugs is one. Group therapy is another. Talk therapy on a one-to-one basis is another. But they have found that meditation, when it is taught to returning military personnel, is the best way to remove oneself from the pain, from the torture of those scenes of war. And here's why. Imagine you have some veteran, and he constantly has this image of a 10, 11-year-old boy being splattered against a wall, or seeing his comrades being blown up by a roadside bomb. Can anyone here imagine what it would be like to relive over and over and over those horrible scenes of war? Especially those soldiers who inadvertently or otherwise kill innocent people. That's a horrible thing to have to live with once you get back into civilian life. What meditation does is, instead of telling you, don't think about that, right? That's the first thing that somebody might say. Oh, you're thinking about the war. Don't think about the war. Well, you can't help but think about the war. This isn't something that's voluntarily done. The war will not let you go. But with meditation practice, and again, often coupled with pharmaceutical therapy, with one-on-one or with group therapy or art therapy, music therapy, all the different therapies that are available certainly can be used. But the reason that meditation is so efficient is that it doesn't ask you to not think about something. It replaces the thought slowly, ever so slowly, and all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but gradually, those thoughts can just sort of move away. And you can give context to those thoughts. Know that it's in the past. And instead of those thoughts that are invading the brain, positive imagery is now taking its place. The breath is taking its place. A candle can be taking its place. And if that can be done for people who arguably have suffered about the worst assaults on the mind possible, how can it not work for those of us who have not been in such traumatic situations? So, the challenge also is, I mentioned that meditation is not a panacea in my blurb. And by that I mean that the great Hindu and Buddhist teachers have always said that meditation, or the spiritual life in general, is like walking on a razor's edge. That is to say, as the mountain folk say, it can work for you and it can work agin you. Meaning that, like with anything, you can use it appropriately, you can use it in a structured manner that meets your needs and the needs of those around you, or you can obsess about it. You can make it the thing in your life that has a hold of you to a point where you are not as productive as you may have been. You may not have been as socially engaged as you once were. So we always have to make sure that we want that balance if we're talking about appropriate mental health. So let me give you a for instance. Anything you do, anything that you incorporate into your life that is a discipline is good for your mental health, right? So I would encourage people to consider adding a period of meditation into their daily lives, something that is done consistently, daily. But what about those people who, if I also asked you to take piano lessons or any musical lessons, if I asked you or encouraged you to learn a new language, each of those disciplines requires daily practice if you really want to get good. So, if you're sitting there thinking, I just don't think meditation's right for me, I'm too active, okay, then learn a different language, learn a musical instrument, do something that requires you to be somewhere every day to learn to be better at whatever that is. Now, I happen to think meditation is a great discipline to have. So if you're doing it every day, that's wonderful. That is really what one should do. However, what if there's someone who is so blinded by just getting better at meditation that they ignore their family, they ignore their job? Clearly something is wrong, and they're slipping on that razor's edge on one side, right? So you have to be careful about that. Also, people who are mentally unstable, who take up meditation without proper guidance, without the guidance of either a therapist or a good meditation teacher who understands this issue, they can be prone to visions of things that aren't really there. We're not talking about a great spiritual enlightenment here. We're talking about voices that are coming out of nowhere, telling them things that may be destructive to them or other people. So I know meditation teachers often who, when a prospective student comes to them, they ask about their current mental state and their mental health, because that can prove to be an issue. I remember, too, I was once at a lecture given by a Hindu monk, and he was talking about his therapy, which, first of all, I thought was wonderful, because there are certain meditation teachers who claim that you don't need therapy. You don't need to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You'll never need antidepressants. All you have to do is meditate or some other spiritual practice. And so this monk was basically saying, not only do I give you permission or encourage you, if you are having mental and emotional issues, to seek out therapy, I'm in therapy. That was wonderful permission for the several thousand people who were watching this same lecture. And at one point in his therapy, he asked his therapist if, I can't remember whether it was a man or woman, but he asked if there were other people on this same spiritual path who were also patients. And the therapist said yes. And the monk asked, are there any common denominators? When you are dealing with people who have really focused a great deal of their lives on perfecting their meditation practice? And the therapist said yes. And without any hesitation said, yes, those common denominators are low self-esteem and an obsession with perfectionism. That made sense to the monk. Of course, because if people are taking meditation instruction and they're encouraged to meditate every day, and they're encouraged to block out all of life for whether it's 15 minutes or a half hour or a full hour, whatever it is, and they're not doing it, they're not getting to that next level, they're going to feel less than whole. So it's really, really important that when one starts the practice of meditation, that one acknowledges one's imperfection and embraces that imperfection, in the same way that if we decided to all learn a new language, we would have to do the same thing. And if we come in on the second day and realize, oh my gosh, I forgot half of the words I learned on the first day, you acknowledge that. And you embrace that and say, well, that is the level where I'm at. Now, here's another thing that a lot of people are concerned about if they start on a path of meditation. And that is, according to the Buddhist and Hindu traditions, the first fruits of meditation are that your defilements will be placed before you. Doesn't that sound fun? It's not, oh, you're going to sit down and you're going to see rainbows and unicorns and fluffy clouds. No, your defilements, the first fruits of meditation are your defilements are going to be placed in front of you. So the first defilement might be, I can't meditate. Or, I can't remove myself from the thought process for more than 3 or 4 seconds, and then boom, it comes right back. And then you also may become aware of maybe selfishness, maybe self-centeredness, maybe greed, whatever it is. But you have to go through that stage, and if you don't go through that stage, you'll stagnate. Well, let me share that when I started my meditation practice, the results were very peaceful, very calm. It was quite wonderful, but no defilements. So I went to my meditation teacher and said, things have been going along well, but I'm not seeing my flaws, my shortcomings, my defilements before me. And he said, it is very important. You must open yourself even more to seeing those and embracing them. So that's what I focused. Day after day after day, week after week, and still nothing. Nothing came up. And I became very concerned, and I told my teacher, and he agreed that at some point we needed to work on this. So failing all of that, I did something rather drastic, wanting desperately to see my defilements and my flaws put before me. I got married. Amazing. Oh my, still to this day, my defilements, my shortcomings, my flaws, right before me with no, and I don't have to work for it. It was that important. Now, okay, I was kidding a little bit, but bottom line is, this is something that, remember when I said you have to already be at a certain state or guided by someone really carefully to make sure that if you have any serious mental imbalances, that you're able to get on the spiritual path of stillness, right? And if someone isn't able to see their defilements and shortcomings placed before them, and be able to, here's the trick, be able to see them in a detached manner, meaning that you're almost watching them as if they belong to someone else, but still knowing that you're responsible for them, still knowing that you need to improve in all of these areas. And of course, the most important area at this stage is just being able to release the mind. And if you are able to release the mind from all of your cares, responsibilities, elections, everything, if you're able to do that, even for a matter of just a few minutes, you're on your way to better mental health and a greater ability to increase your spiritual understanding. You're able, I know this is a questioning group, which I love. I love religious paths that encourage questioning. In Hinduism, we do the same thing. I often say, we're not a faith-based faith, meaning that we don't hold a lot of esteem for beliefs, right? I go to the Hindu temple, and I don't know what this person or that person believes. It could be completely different from me, and I know this is the same in the congregation. You guys don't sit around and go, well, what do you believe? Oh, well, I think you're believing wrong. No, that's not it. We do the same thing. People are able to, well, I think that others often will criticize people like us and say, well, you believe what you want to believe. And my answer is no. We believe what we are able to believe, not what we want to believe, what we are able to believe. And I have found over these years that the questions that I have about spirituality just become answered internally. And sometimes I will discuss those with other people, and other times I won't. But it's encouraging that part of the process of meditation is that questions can be internally answered. And how do you know if you're meditating correctly? Well, how are other people in your lives responding to you as a person? Whether they know you've taken up a practice or you haven't, it doesn't matter. But when people say, oh, you're rather calm, you're calmer than they used to be, you don't get angry as much as you used to be, you don't do this and you are doing that, then you kind of know that maybe you're on the right path. I actually received a compliment of sorts. I had eye surgery in August, and it was fairly traumatic. Not to get too much in the weeds, but it wasn't typical to cataracts surgery, which a lot of people here probably have had. But they had to replace a lens that was put in 35 years ago, and that's more traumatic. My healing process was very slow. And I was with some family on vacation, actually, in Italy last month, and I was concerned, I was experiencing extremely low vision, and we were concerned that my vision might not come back. It has, thank God. But at that time, a month ago, we weren't sure that it was going to come back. And a sister-in-law said, "But you just seem so calm about it." She goes, "I don't know if I could handle it the way you're handling it. The prospect of being half blind for the rest of my life." And I credit that to meditation, because that is one of the fruits of meditation. Aside from the defilements coming in, you're able to sort of accept what life is at this time, at whatever is going on. So let me leave you with this. There are many, many different ways to learn meditation if you're not practicing it already. I suspect that many in this group have meditated from time to time. If you're looking for a discipline that will balance you and will encourage a deeper spiritual search, I think that that's an opportunity to consider. So it has been a blessing. I am done here now and happy to take your questions in a short while.